What is going on, everyone? Is Rebecca in with another video. In today's video, we're going to be doing our WBC predictions, and this is going to be a hard one to do because I'm going to be picking the whole tournament, who I think is going to get out of these groups and what I think is going to happen throughout the whole tournament. So let's just get right into the video. So starting off with this Group A, obviously this is a pretty good, it's my wild card group. I don't really have a good shot of who's really going to win this one because I feel like it could go anyway, but I think my predictions are going to be pretty good here. I think I'm going to go with Panama in 5th place. Now, I think Panama, they had a lot of good players, and then most of them just kind of dropped out. So that's why I think they're going to be the worst out of these teams in the group, just because I don't think they're that solid compared to the other squads in this group. I thought they were going to be really good, and everyone dropped. So I don't think it's going to happen anymore. So that's why I think I'm going to have Panama last in this one. So I don't really think they're even going to win a game, to be honest. I don't know. I probably would say Taiwan, honestly, in this one, or the Chinese Taipei, whichever one you want to use. They don't look that terrible. I think they do end up beating Panama in their first game, but I just don't think they're going to be that really good of a team, to be honest, in this tournament. I think the other 3 teams are a lot better than them throughout all the metrics, to be honest. They could shock us, like once I said again, like we don't really know much about this squad, but I just don't think they're going to perform that well compared to the other squads. Now in 3rd, I'm actually going to have Team Italy. I think Italy has a really good young core roster that could definitely do some damage, and I'm excited to see how they're actually going to do overall. But I do think they could definitely get a couple wins on the board here. I don't think they're going to get out to that quarterfinals though, but I think they'll go probably a solid 2-2 on the board right here. So we'll see how Team Italy does. I think they're going to get 3rd with that 2-2 placement. So my second team, I think I'm going to have Cuba. I think Cuba is definitely a solid squad. I think they definitely have what it takes to get out of that quarterfinals. So I'm excited to see them at the number 2 spot. And then once again, that means the Netherlands would be number 1. I think the Netherlands is a great team. They have a lot of good players on the squad. With some of the best MLB guys like Xander Bogaerts and Didi Gregorius. I think those guys will be pretty solid. They have a pretty good lineup across the board, and they have probably the best pitching out of the whole group, to be honest. So that's why I think I'm gonna have them as the number 1 seed. Probably gonna go 4-0 or 1-3 in this group, to be honest. So I think the Netherlands and Cuba are the ones getting out of this group. So let's go over to Pool B. I think this is the easiest one to predict out of the whole tournament. I think it's going to be pretty easy, so let's get right into it. So at number 5, I'm going to have China. I think China is the worst team in the World Baseball Classic in general. They haven't really looked good in their couple scrims they've played against a couple of the teams. They lost pretty badly to this, Japan amateur team. They lost like 16-0. So yeah, they're not really doing good. They haven't also played a good in any of these World Baseball Classics before. So I don't think they're even going to win a game. I think they're going to be in last place. So number 4 in this group, I'm going to have Australia. Australia has kind of that same thing. They haven't really done anything in these World Baseball Classics as well, but I do think they're significantly better than this China squad. So I think they're going to go 1-3 in this group, just beating China, and I think they'll end up getting 4th. I don't think their squad's terrible, but I don't think they're better than Japan or Korea. And then number 3, I'm going to have the Czech Republic. I think the Czech Republic actually could get out of this group by beating Japan or South Korea. I just don't think it's that likely to happen just because those teams are so good. But it definitely could happen. I think this is going to be one of those underrated teams going into this tournament. And if they get out of this group, they could definitely cause some noise. But personally, I just don't see it really happening just because Japan and South Korea are so dominant, and they've been this way for years, that those are going to be my top 2 getting out. Probably South Korea number 2, Japan at number 1. Those could really flip-flop either way. I think Japan's definitely number 1, South Korea definitely number 2. South Korea, once again, I mean, the KBO is stacked with such good talent, and especially on this roster, they just have a lot of that. And then once again, Japan probably is the best squad in the whole tournament, I think, and I do think they're going to have a really good run. So I got Japan and South Korea getting out of this group. All right, so let's go over to Pool C now. This is probably the most interesting one we have. We got a lot of different countries in here, so let's get right into this one. Going at number 5, I think we have Colombia, actually. I think Colombia's going to get number 5 in this group. They played during the Latin America tournament, didn't really look that good, and I don't really have many confidence in the squad in general against most of these teams. So I think I'm with Colombia number 5th. Once again, I just don't see it happening, to be honest. So at number 4, I think I'm going to have Team Canada. I think Team Canada is one of those wildcard teams. They've never really played really well, but they've always had close games with some of these top teams. So I do think Canada is definitely that number 4th spot, probably going 1-3. But I do think Team Canada is definitely a good squad, and I think I could be wrong about that prediction, but I'm not really sure. So number 3, I have Great Britain. I think this might be a little shocker to some people, but this Great Britain squad actually is really good. They have a lot of good prospects on this team. Obviously, I can't wait to see Henry Ford back, with this team again. Played really well in those qualifiers. Going to be even better with this squad. They could have had some really other good names with them as well. But I think the squad is pretty solid overall. I mean, they obviously dominated those quarter matches they played. A little bit new roster, but I do think they're going to get at least number 3 in this group. I think they're going to look pretty solid. So number 2, I think I'm going to have Mexico. I think Mexico's a really good squad. I mean, you can't underestimate this team at all. Really good pitchers and really good hitters across the board, and I'm excited to see some of those guys in there. So I think Mexico's number 2. We'll see. I think they could get number 1 as well in beating the U.S., but I do think the United States is definitely number 1 in this group. They definitely look like the best team. They got an absolute god squad, and I'm excited to see how they do. So I got Mexico and the United States getting out in this group. All right, going over to Pool D. This is a pretty interesting group overall. Gonna have some wild cards, I think, in here, but we'll see how this one goes. So number 5, we got Nicaragua. I don't think this squad is going to do particularly good, especially against a lot of these other squads, and they play 4 straight games in a row, so it's going to be hard for them to actually get anywhere with this team, and I don't think it's their year, so I think I'm going to have them last. Just not really good hitting and pitching across the board compared to these other teams. I think they're going to be number 5. Coming in at number 4, I probably have Israel. I really want Israel to get out of this group, but I just don't see it happening, to be honest. So I think I'm going to have Israel as 4th. I think they can, make it close with some of these top teams, but I don't think they're going to do insanely well. So I think I'm going to have them 4th. I mean, it's a really young team on paper, but I just don't see it happening for Israel. At number 3, I'm going to have Venezuela. I think Venezuela, they played okay in the Latin American, tournament or whatever it was called, but compared to the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, I just don't think it's happening. Those squads are absolutely stacked with players. Their pitching's good, their hitting's good, but the Venezuelan team, I don't think it's going to match up well with them, and I don't think they're going to really perform against those top teams. So I got them going 3 in this group. So that obviously means Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic are 2 and 1. I'm going to have Dominican Republic, I think, at 1, Puerto Rico at 2. Dominican Republic is definitely looking like a shot to win a WBC title. Same with Puerto Rico. Both these teams, have been up there multiple times before, so I think they're the ones that are going to get out in this group. And, I'm excited because I think both of these teams, when they actually do play each other, the last match of the pool, probably deciding that seeding. So definitely interesting to see these teams and how they're going to rock, but let's get into the bracket now. So my first game would be the Netherlands versus Korea in this first setup right here. So I do think this will be an interesting game. Both these squads are really good overall. I mean, I think Korea is probably the better squad in my opinion compared to the Netherlands, but I think it's going to be a very close game, if I had to be honest. So I think I'm going to take Korea in this one just because I do think that team's a little bit better, but I'd love to see the Netherlands win and actually make a run because that team is with so much talent. I think they have a shot to make that run, but I think I'm going to take Korea in that semifinals. So in the next game, I would have the Dominican Republic and Mexico. Now, I do think Dominican Republic would win this one for sure. I think Mexico's pretty solid, but the Dominican Republic is just like an all-star team on all fronts with pitching and hitting. So I'm going to take the Dominican Republic in that game. All right, so for a third game, it would be Japan versus Cuba. Very interesting matchup. I think Japan would fare very well against them, but I think I'm going to take Japan over Cuba. That squad is just so good on paper, so I think I'm going to take that Japan squad in that quarterfinals. And the next game is the United States versus Puerto Rico. I mean, this is really hard to call. Both these teams definitely look really good. I mean, it could go either way, I think. I mean, both the squads are really good overall. So I think I don't know. I feel like I'm leaning towards the U.S., but I think Puerto Rico can make a showing. I think I'm going to take the United States in that one, or Puerto Rico, but it's like a rematch of the finals last year, or 2017. So going to be an interesting game for sure if that was able to happen. So then my first semifinals, I would have the Dominican Republic versus South Korea, which would be pretty interesting. I do think the Dominican Republic would win that one. Once again, I mean, you look at this team's roster, it's just so stacked on all fronts. I think the Dominican Republic definitely got a good shot to win that one and actually go to the championship game. But I think that game would be pretty close. But it's so hard to predict, when these teams are this good. So I don't know. South Korea, to me, I don't think would have it. I think their pitching would kind of fall short in that game, or throughout the tournament maybe. And then in that game they wouldn't have enough pitching. But I don't know. We'll see. The Dominican Republic look pretty solid. I think I'm gonna take them for the first team in the championship. And we have Japan versus the United States. So this rivalry's been going back for years. But I do think Japan will win this one. for sure. I mean, their core roster with all that talent that we're seeing in the Nippon Baseball League is absolutely crazy. So I definitely gotta take them over the U.S. I think the U.S. could put up a good fight, but I just don't think we're gonna repeat. I just don't see that being a possibility, and I think I'm gonna take Japan overall. So now my championship game would be the Dominican Republic versus Japan. Now, honestly, I think this would be a good championship game. Excited to see how this one goes. But for me, I think I got to take the Dominican Republic to actually win this one. I think Japan looks really solid on paper, but I think Dominican Republic just has that talent, has those better players, has those clutch players which you need. I think they actually end up taking it. So I think Dominican Republic will get their first WBC championship, and I'd be excited to see how the rest of the teams do. But let me know in the comment section below if I'm wrong, I'm right, what do you guys agree with, what do you guys disagree with, because I probably said a lot of people in this video, let's be honest. But that's my predictions. I think Dominican Republic is going to win, Japan second, and then, the rest of the teams will follow suit. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below if you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everyone.